morning, everyone. I hope we're all well this morning. It's good to see everyone logging in and joining us for the session. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Lauren Bell, Business Liaison Officer at Wanneroo Business Association, and this is one of our free webinars for members to educate you, hopefully give you some things that you can take back and implement in your business. And before I hand over to Agatha, who is delivering the session today, I just wanted to remind you all that everyone's in it together. If anyone needs any support or connections to other business owners or any help from ourselves, please just give us a call. We'll be happy to help. Agatha actually ran this webinar as a workshop last year, and we had really good feedback. She's really good at presenting things in a clear way and reminding you of the main things that you need to have at the core of your marketing strategy for your business. So we decided to run this online one so that you can all look at maybe where you're at the moment and put some things in place to strengthen your marketing for the business. So I'll hand over to Agatha. There's a few features of the platform I wanted to let you all know about. There is a chat. If you click the chat button at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to chat with attendees. But we're also encouraging people to use the Q&A function. So just like you would in a normal workshop, if something comes up that you've got a question about, or you might need clarification, or you've just got a comment, please hit the Q&A button at the bottom and feel free to put your questions in, which we will answer at the end of the session. So the webinar is being recorded. It will be available in the Facebook group later today for our members. But I think I'll hand over to Agatha. So Agatha is the owner of Execute Marketing. I hope you all enjoy the session.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. I've got to admit, this is the first time that I have run a workshop online, but exciting for me. So hopefully I cover off some things that will help you guys in, I guess, a bit of a strange time that's happening at the moment. So like Lauren said, feel free to drop in your questions. We'll try and cover them off at the end of the session, just to make sure that we cover off, what people are thinking and wanting to know. So just, I guess, a little bit about what I'm going to cover off today. A little bit about me and a little bit about you guys. Kind of touching on, I guess, we know what kind of time we're in at the moment, unprecedented times with what's happening with COVID, and just a bit of, what I think, what businesses could be doing, what some of my clients are doing, what I'm doing myself. And then I'm going to take you in through the strategy part. So Lauren will know, since she's known me, I probably am a huge advocate of marketing strategies and how that can help your business. I think it's really important, and particularly now with everything that's going on, ensuring that you have a strong strategy to support your business plans. And then I'll take you through marketing strategy overview, what should be included, what you should be thinking about. And then at the end, we'll touch on some Q&As. So just to start off a little bit about myself. So I've been working in the marketing industry for about 14 years now, and I've worked for some really great businesses. So I started my career at the Chamber of Commerce way back when, so 14 years ago. I worked for a global engineering company called Golda. I worked as a market analyst at Capitalis. I worked at Crown during the big changeover from Burswood to Crown, which was a really interesting time. I spent 5 years as a local marketing manager at IKEA, which was an incredible experience. And then I went into the consultancy and agency side of things at Market Creations, which is a small agency based in Subiaco. And then basically I had my second little child and decided to basically start my own business. So about 12 months ago, I started Execute Marketing, and I work with a variety of clients across quite a broad range of industries. And I work with things like marketing strategy, digital marketing. I provide outsourced marketing management and planning. I do a bit of marketing and training and coaching, social media management, and I also facilitate branding, graphic design, and web development work. So in a bit of a snapshot, that's what I do. And I know this is the original list that we had of people that were coming on board, but I believe there's been quite a few other businesses that have registered overnight and this morning. But just to kind of show you, there is, a myriad of different industries here, probably with similar challenges with what's going on. But you can see there's a bit of a mix from all kind of industries. So hopefully what we go over is we're going to give you guys some kind of thought and insight as to how to proceed going forward. So I guess what time we find ourselves in. This is probably completely unprecedented times. I know that my business has been affected, my clients' businesses have been affected. I think we're probably at a phase where we kind of are accepting of what's gone on, and now it's looking at what the opportunities, the possibilities are to basically see where our businesses go in the next few months, next 12 months. Where do we go from here? So what I guess I'm covering off today is about marketing strategy, and what you'll see is having a really big look at your marketing strategy. A, do you have one? B, do you do regular reviews? How does that sit in with your business planning? I will be sending out an email with a bit of a bit of a flyer brochure where I think is some of the key quick wins, critical steps that you could be using in this time to be kind of helping shape your business going forward. So in my experience with my clients in the last four weeks or so, I've had some clients that have put all work on hold. I have had clients that were using this time to re-strategize and work on some of the basics that maybe need to be worked on, new websites, making sure your listings are all up to date, working on branding. So there's definitely a lot of work on my side been happening for planning for the kickback when things return to semi-normal state. So what I'll be doing at today is I'll be sending out an email to all the people on the call to kind of just recommend some things that I think that is beneficial for you to be doing for your business during these times, particularly if you have some downtime, just to get things kind of to a level where you're ready to go when things are going back to normal. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if people in WA continue doing the right thing, it's going to be here sooner rather than later. So, okay, so it all starts with the strategy. I'm a big believer and advocate in making sure that your business has a marketing strategy. I work with a lot of people who don't have marketing strategies, and it'd be quite interesting to know from the attendees on the call who has a marketing strategy, who's ever done a marketing strategy, because I find that a lot of the time in small business we come up with a great idea or a product or a service and we kind of jump in and we kind of just get stuck in the day-to-day running of the business. And I found sometimes that can be okay. It gets to a point though that things can change, or your customer changes or the industry changes, and you're kind of coming back to square one. So I firmly believe that your strategy is really, really important. It's really a way to think. So, I often encounter people who are doing a lot of marketing activities. So things like social media or ads or Google ads, radio, print, whatever it may be, but they're kind of just doing it because they think that's what they should be doing. And what I really believe is that everything that you should do in a tactical nature should be coming back to what is it that you're trying to achieve? Is the money that you're investing in your tactical marketing coming back and supporting your underlying business goals? So really, for me, thinking strategically should be a day-to-day almost way of thinking of your business. Your marketing should directly reflect what your business goals are. So if you have a goal that you need to increase in 2021 your sales by 10%, what is it specifically in your marketing activities that you're doing that's going to make you achieve your increase in sales by 10%? It should never be done in isolation. It should all be always done completely in a way where everything you're doing tactically should be coming back to your overall business strategy and your business planning. So what is a marketing strategy? So an organization strategy that combines all of its marketing goals into one comprehensive plan. It should be done with a combination of market research, finding the right product and promotional mix to basically achieve the best outcome for your business. It gives you the direction towards effective promotion, and it allows you to be really, I guess, understanding of what is actually going on. I think what I found in my time working in marketing we often make a lot of assumptions about what is going on. We think this is a certain way, but if we're not regularly doing research, reviews, checking in with our own business goals, we can find that you might be a little bit off. So, a lot of time we think we make assumptions. I think it's really important in your strategy work is when you're doing your analysis is that you're actually finding the real truth. And this is only going to help your business going forward. So we talk about marketing strategy versus marketing plan. So what does that actually mean? So often people use these interchangeably, but they are actually quite different. So marketing strategy is an explanation of the goals a company needs to meet its marketing and business objectives, and it shapes its strategy. So every business's goals and their marketing strategy should go hand in hand. So I work with a lot of clients where we do almost business level planning. We talk about what is it that their business is trying to achieve? What is their key products? We kind of do a whole discussion around their business, even before we attempt to discuss how we're going to communicate the messages about their businesses. So marketing strategy is basically that top level structure that will help, guide your tactical marketing plan. So that takes me then to the plan. It's basically the application of your strategy. So it's the roadmap that's going to get you from point A to B. So the marketing strategy describes the what. So this is what we're going to do. So we have, for example, sales goal increase of 10%. So that's the what, and the plan describes the how. So how we're going to do that. So in 2021, our tactical marketing plan could be a range of Google Ads, new website, etc., etc. So unfortunately, what I do find often is people will dive straight into the how before determining, what is actually the right steps that should be taking. Obviously we have buzzwords in marketing, social media ads, Google ads. Really, sometimes it really depends on your business and taking the time out to understand what are the channels you should be using, what is the messaging you should be using, where should you be investing your money. And that's what we do in the strategy planning approach, which I'll take you through. One thing that I'm also very passionate about is, as business owners, we need to realize who is in charge. The reality is that we are not in charge. It's our customers or prospective customers that really is the reason we exist. So something I always talk to business owners, and why I think it's really important to do some of this strategy planning, is to really understand your customers, your future customers, or potential future customers if you want to look at diversifying what your product range or your service range could be. Because at the end of the day, someone is making a decision to buy your product or to purchase your service. So we've got to remember that at the end of everything that we do, our customers are in charge. So what I'm going to take you through is basically the overall structure of a marketing strategy. And this is, the approach that I've used pretty much always since I've been in my marketing career. It's not overly complex, but it can be quite involved in finding the information to basically build that strategy to support your business. And what you'll find is, so this is the marketing approach that I use, and it's cyclical. So one thing I do really firmly believe in is, if you do a marketing strategy and you spend the time to do it, you need to be making sure that you're regularly checking in. A lot of the people I work with, we do it at least once a year. So we make sure that the things that we set out to achieve and the marketing tactics that we implemented have actually executed the results that we set out to. And that's why it's never a set and leave. So marketing strategy and marketing in general is quite dynamic. I don't think that you're doing yourself any service if you kind of do things and then you leave it. It's not really going to work. It's not going to support your business for the most part. Sometimes you get lucky. I've had a client recently who works in electrical and civil services and also offer plant hire for their business. And he ended up engaging with me because for a few years he literally did nothing to get his business out there, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reasons, industry, whatever it was, he realized that he'd sort of had not done any planning on how they were going to, I guess, get new customers or get the brand out, etc., for a couple of years. So he basically got stuck, and we've now had to spend, 6 months basically trying to claw back the time that they potentially lost in the future. So this is why I think it's really important to dedicate that time to look at your strategy against your business plan and ensuring that the two are working together to make sure that you're achieving your business goals. So how this starts is we always start at where are we now? So this is probably the part of the strategy planning that takes the most amount of time, and you'll see what's involved basically in all of this. So this really simple question basically kicks off the entire marketing process. And what you'll find is when you start doing this, it leads to a lot more questions, or I guess a lot of time and discussion being had is to really understand where your business actually is now. So what that covers off is basically conducting a situational analysis. So it's making a thorough analysis of the current situation that your business is in, and it's the first step in developing a competitive marketing strategy. Because if you don't know where you are now, how are you going to know where you want to get to, or how are you going to get to understand what you've achieved? So really, it's having a really in-depth analysis internally and externally to understand where your business is. So what includes that is a macro, a micro, and internal audit. So what does that mean in macro? So it's basically doing an analysis of the social, technological, economic, environmental, and political factors that may affect your business. And depending on what your business is, this could be anything. We know at the moment that every business in the world would be sort of having an issue with what's going on with the economy, the environment, the social implications. But what you would do in the macro analysis is kind of have a look at what's going on in the industry, the local industry within Western Australia. I generally look at all the CCIWA business consumer reports, the ComSec state of the state reports, to kind of understand where things are going for businesses. I generally work with medium to small size businesses, and we find that's quite beneficial, understanding how the economy and future business I guess feelings and thoughts are, helps really kind of cement where the snapshot of time is and how their business is doing in comparison to that. Obviously things like technology can affect your business. When I started out in marketing, which was 14 years ago, there was no such thing as Facebook and Instagram, and obviously in the last decade since that's been around, it's had a huge far-reaching impact on the way we do business, the way we consume information. So that's something that's quite considerable. Environmental, political impacts. So sometimes I found when we're doing this analysis, if there's an election coming up, that can put businesses uneasy, can make consumers uneasy because they're not sure what's going to happen. So it's having a good snapshot of what's going on in the outside world that you have no control over, but to have a good insight as to how you can ensure that your business is working within those macro fields. So what does that mean? So I touched on social factors such as your population growth, your demographics, your insights, household numbers, also soft facts such as social, cultural trends, lifestyle. So depending on what your business is about, these things can have some little or a lot of impact. So it's really understanding what that means to you. Obviously, economic conditions play a huge part in all markets. Having understanding of, household income and spending, consumption statistics, employment levels is really important. And again, it depends on what your business is. But if you're selling business to consumer and you're selling a product that's aimed for families, and with what's going on in the world at the moment, people's income is being severely impacted. So how does that affect your business? So having a good understanding of what's happening in the economy is pretty critical. Political, like I mentioned, that usually has some sort of impact, usually short term, particularly in Australia, because we've got quite a moderate, political situation, but that can affect people's wanting to purchase or hold off purchases. Technology, obviously that can have a huge impact. You know, we now spend more time on our mobile devices than ever before. And what does that mean for your business? Is that an opportunity? Is it a threat? And environmental. So obviously this is something that comes up more and more as an issue for businesses. People are more socially aware. And if your business is in a space where the environment has an effect, what are you doing to support an environmental policy, for example? So this is the kind of some of the key, I guess, high level things you need to look at. Obviously, I use things such as, I think I mentioned CSR reports, but I also look at the Bureau of Statistics to see how people's wages are, you know, fluctuating and things like that, to help the specific business understand what their roadmap is based on the external analysis of what's going on in the world. The microanalysis. So this is understanding of your world, of your business, and your local market. So what we look at in a micro analysis is doing a competitor analysis, analysing your business performance, conducting a brand audit, looking at a digital audit, specifically now because everything is so digitised, and doing an active review of your marketing. I sometimes find when I've been working with people is they do a lot of marketing activities, but they don't really ever go back and really check to see if it's been working. You know, if you're using things like Facebook ads, Instagram, Google AdWords, you know, you have basically real-time results of what's going on. So you really need to be checking back to see if you should be making tweaks or making changes or stopping it. So when you do your microanalysis, you're really looking at your local market and how your business fits in with that. So what you should be doing is looking at your competitor analysis. Compile what your competitors are doing. Focus on the areas such as pricing, their promotion, what activity they're doing, what's their digital footprint like. I've just gone through this process with someone, and they're in the manufacturing space, and they kind of said to me at the beginning when we did our kickoff workshop, oh, I've got about eight competitors, they said. I then worked and did their analysis for them. It came out they had about 25. So it's a little bit of a different picture for them. It was quite eye-opening for them to really go, okay, we've been in a bubble. We kind of assumed that's who our competition was, but now it's threefold what they expected. So that's now means that we can put steps in place to make sure that we're at least reaching the level of where their competition is at now, and then understanding what their key proposition is over and above their competitors, and using that to basically flow through their communications. Your business performance. So I think I mentioned before, really your business performance should be directly influenced by your marketing strategy and your marketing investments. So you need to be looking at your current KPIs, your metrics, your sales, your turnover, your profit, your customer numbers, because ideally your marketing, whatever it is you're doing, should be having an impact on that. Hopefully the positive impacts are giving you the goals that you want to achieve. So, you know, making sure that you're regularly reviewing your business performance. With my clients, we do this every 3 months because it kind of gives us enough time when we're doing tactics, marketing tactics or campaigns or ads, whatever it could be. It gives us a good time. So we're analysing this 4 times a year before doing a sort of overall marketing strategy wrap up for the next financial year. Analysing your previous marketing activities, your spends, your outcomes, your results. Are you doing this regularly? This is really important because if you're not, and you're not checking your ads aren't working and you keep running them, what's the point? You're actually costing yourself a heap of money. So really having a look at what you've done before, how much you've spent, has that yielded you the results that you require? So having that active approach to your marketing activity review is super, super important. Your brand audit. So this is basically conducting an audit of your business's brands in position to the market and your competitors. Helps kind of look at your brand, if there's any weaknesses or inconsistencies, opportunities for improvement and new developments. So I worked with the client recently, and some of their brand basics just weren't in place. So they didn't have the Google business listing. They had different logos in the past few years, and they basically had circulated 3 or 4 different logo types depending on where it was. So some people in their organisation had an email signature with one old logo, the other people had the new logo, their Facebook and Instagram had no logo. So it's kind of having a look at how your brand fits in. So if you've done a bit of your customer analysis, you can kind of see this benchmark of where your key competitors are sitting and kind of going, right, does my brand fit in there? So that's, I think it's really important to have a look at your brands in that way, so doing an audit. And then that kind of naturally takes you through a digital marketing audit, which is basically reviewing the strategies you use to build your online presence and the outcomes of these efforts. So, this is, again, continuous improvement is always there. Particularly now, I know that's what I'm doing with a lot of my clients. We're literally going through this process of doing these audits and implementing or updating the brand basics, the digital basics, etc. It's a really great time to be doing that. You'd also want to be doing customer analysis, and this is something I think is really, really important. So it costs a crap load more money to market to acquire a new customer than it does to convert an existing customer that's already bought from you either a product or service. So I think it's really important to go back through your customers that you've had over the last 2 to 3 years and kind of have a look and in a way segment them and kind of look at who they were, what they bought from you, the value of what they bought from you, and when was the last time they bought from you. I found we've done this recently with that manufacturing client, and we kind of went through the last 3 years of client jobs and values, and we found probably a handful, 6 to 10 clients that haven't been just talked to, communicated to for the last 2 to 3 years, that who had a value to their business of approximately $200,000. So there's things like that if you've got if you do this customer analysis and profiling of your existing and previous customers, you have an opportunity to market back to an audience that you've already had experience with and you've already gone through those initial steps of them knowing who you are, trying to convert the sale. They already know you. So it's a really big opportunity to create a target audience that is captive. But again, it requires you to have a look at this. And so once you've kind of done an audit of your current customer base, you can create your, personas for going out and doing, acquisition for new customers. So if you know that your current customers, for the most part, have, 3 or 4 or 5 elements. For example, if we're doing business to consumer, you've got a product that's for women aged 40 plus that live in Perth, that love yoga, for example, and that's 80% of your current client base is like that. You can then use that profiling information to help shape your acquisition marketing strategies, be it sales, Facebook ads, whatever it could be. But I find that if you kind of really understand who your customer is and who you want your customer to be, it's going to give you a little bit of help when you're going to implement your tactical marketing strategy. So once you've kind of done that analysis, we kind of go into the SWOT analysis. So it's a strategic planning technique. A lot of people have heard about it, use it a lot in general business planning. And it relates to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to your business. And in this instance, from a marketing perspective. So basically it helps determine what your focus areas should be for your business. So opportunities and threats focus on the macro factors, and the strengths and weaknesses focus on the micro and internal factors. So basically what you would do here is, once you've kind of conducted your overall audit and analysis, you will basically pull out the key areas where you think your strengths are, your weaknesses which you can work on, your strengths to basically use as your unique selling proposition, to find out what it is that your business differentiates itself amongst its competitors, the opportunities and the threats. So really it kind of gives you the opportunity to funnel in and kind of go, right, this is where we're at, this is where we need to focus, and this is what we need to be aware of from an external perspective. So this is the opportunities, threats, strengths and weaknesses. This will help shape your overall top level marketing plan. Sorry, just give me 1 second. So where are we now? So we're still in that first part of the marketing cycle. So the next part that I spend a lot of time on is customer segmentation. So it's basically how your business divides its customers, and I just touched on that briefly before when you do an analysis of your current customer base. Basically, it's you group where possible your customers into characteristics such as age, income, personality traits, behaviours, and then these segments are later used to optimise products and advertising to different customers. So if you're in a business where your product or your service is very, very targeted and specific, that's one thing. But often businesses have different products and services that need to be targeted to people in different ways. And this is where we do the customer segmentation part. So like I said, we really need to be in the mind of our customers or our prospective customers or our ideal customers when we're looking at what we're doing, because without them, our businesses don't exist. So looking at, really the customer is at the heart of everything that we do. So, so custom segmentation, like I mentioned, you need to identify who your target customers are using the information you've gathered from your research, plus your internal analysis. You can split them into existing and target customer groups. So often, depending on where your business is at, what you offer, you could have different strategies to acquire or sell to different customer types. So what you would do in a strategy for existing customers or customers that have dealt with your business previously could be quite different to going out for a customer acquisition strategy to find entirely new customers. So having a look at how you facilitate your communication really depends on which segment that you're targeting. Some businesses have complex sales funnels and customer groups. Others have one or two segments that they're going after. So it really, again, it comes down to how you analyze your business, what your goals are, and your customer base, and your projections of what you want to achieve in turnover and profit and sales, etc. It also, when you're doing this, is you would have done the competitor profiling, and it's ensuring that you're comparing yourself to how your competitors are doing their customer segments. What I found sometimes is when you kind of do that, the Google search terms for your competitors, you also find that you'll find who are kind of running Google ads, because they'll be the ones that kind of crop up on the top. So then you know that your competitors are paying for Google ads for those key search terms. So it kind of gives you a bit of an insight. But basically, if you have a good idea of who your customers are or who you want your customers to be, it's going to give you a good support going forwards for when you're actually doing marketing tactics or advertising or sales communication, etc., etc. It's really, really important. So the biggest thing that I kind of want to touch on is the most important thing when you're doing marketing is basically having flexibility, because the way that customers purchase now, whether it's business to business or business to consumer, changes so quickly. People are super fickle. That's the reality. You have 3 seconds to try and convert someone on a website. If people can Google a competitor in no time at all. So what you kind of need to be thinking all the time is going, do I understand who my customer actually is? Or have I got the right understanding of who my customer is or could be? Am I communicating in the right way to them? And am I executing the right acquisition strategy to ensure that they're hearing my message amongst the millions of messages that they're receiving every single day? So having flexibility is super important, and understanding that marketing and customers are dynamic. So it's forever changing. People's purchasing behaviors change, etc. So it's just being aware that it's not a set and leave approach ever. It's really having a good understanding consistently of where people are at in their sales cycle, in understanding what their purchase behaviors are, etc., etc. That's why I think it's quite important to spend quite a bit of time understanding customers and future customers. So what that, in terms of your customer segmentation again, is looking at your product or your service. And what you need to do is examine your product or service with the aim of working out how you're going to market it and outdo your competitors, because we all know that for the most part, if you've got a solid business idea, you can be sure that someone else is doing the same thing. So what is it that makes your business stand up and above, out from the rest? Because like I said, a customer can Google a business or a need that they have, and they're going to have a list of businesses that do that in 3 seconds. So your USP, so your unique selling proposition. How many of you can sit down now and kind of go, my unique selling proposition is? So part of this is kind of going, when you're doing your that total analysis, you kind of can pull out where you think your business sits and what your unique selling proposition is. It might be that you're the leader in that industry and have been, or potentially you offer a service in a different way that's never been there before. But it's really looking at what you think your unique selling proposition is, and that it could be used as a base for all your marketing communication tactics going forward, because you want to stand out from the crowd. So the benefits to your customer is it can vary between your customer segments. It's understanding your customer, understanding your product, your current product suite, and mixing and matching and going, right, this is how we need to look at what our unique selling proposition is and which customer aligns to that the best. And this is how we're going to shape our marketing message going forward. Okay, so where are we now? So this still forms part of that first section of the marketing cycle. And the marketing mix basically refers to the set of actions or tactics that a business or company uses to promote its brand or product in the marketplace. So we've had the 4 Ps and the 7 Ps that make up a typical marketing mix: so price, product, promotion, place, people, process, physical layout. It all changes. Even the time I've been in, when I studied marketing back in ages ago, it was always the 4 Ps, but now it's an extension with the 7 Ps. So what does that kind of mean? It's basically the combination of all the marketing tools you're using to communicate your benefits to your customers. So this is examples: advertising, PR, word of mouth, your distribution channels, pricing, promotion, which products you'll sell, your display in a shop, your website, so on. So it's basically everything that you do in a mix. So with a product, this is all about the benefits. What I just touched on previously is that your product offers to your customer its unique selling proposition and how it's positioned in the market. And this is that part, when you're doing that analysis, you should really have an understanding of what that refers to. Your place, so this is where and how you actually sell your product. So this is your distribution channel. So this is part of the marketing mix. Are you an online business? Are you bricks and mortar retail store? How is it that you go about you sell your product? The price, so this is quite an important part of, I guess, your marketing strategy, and it really depends on what your business is about, what it offers, the products or services it offers, and who your customers are. And I often get the question, particularly in businesses that are selling direct to consumers, for example, is about pricing. And it's quite, one of those factors. We know that people can be price sensitive. So what I try and do here is have a look at your competitors. And this is sometimes where it helps to do a bit of, mystery shopping, if it's appropriate for your business, is having a look at what your competition is charging for a product or service. Because often I think people feel the need to discount or lower their pricing because they think it's going to give them more customers or more sales. And I'm of the opinion that you don't necessarily need to do that. If your value of what your product or service is at a good price point, you should be attracting the customers that you set out to achieve, if that makes sense. So I try and, when I worked for IKEA years ago, we had this conversation in our commercial team all the time about, discounting. IKEA has lower price all the time. That's what they try to achieve. But we had used to look at doing, percentage off sales. I think it was for mattresses at the time we're talking about. It was like 30% off mattresses. And we did this for years and years and years. And what we found is that people then became, because people are super sophisticated when it comes to pricing and buying things for value. we found that we would have this discount sale of mattress to 30% over a month in the year. What that meant is we would obviously reduce our margins by quite a lot, and we would get people in, but these people then refrained from making purchases throughout the rest of the year, and they would come in specifically for that promotion. And so they would come in and buy, but our margins would get absolutely destroyed because we had this reduction. What we found is when we removed that 30% off, our overall business sales for that product improved. So the discounting strategy in that sense didn't work. So what we found is that, and what I found with other clients is, if you do the research analysis of what your competitors are doing, you look at your product and the value that you add as either with your product or with your service, you have a price point which you need to basically, you're making sure you're making the amount of money that you need to make your business viable. So having a bit of research, understanding your price compared to competitors and what people are willing to buy is super important. And then the promotion part. So this is, there's a lot. So people often will say marketing is this. So as you can see, this is just the promotion aspect. So this is the actual communication flow out to people. So in the marketing mix of promotion is, your communication with your customers, prospective customers, leads, etc. It involves your brand and corporate identity, and it's inclusive of all of these kinds of things. It's everything from direct marketing, your digital stuff, your on-site, if you've got a shop front or an office front, any loyalty programs you have, public relations, and of course above the lines of things like TV and radio. And obviously there's been quite a bit of this big switch about digital. Digital is super important. But what I also suggest to people is, don't just think that digital social is the only way. I find when I talk with a lot of the businesses I work with, it's finding that right marketing mix. So if, depending on what your business is, might be appropriate that all your channels are digital because you're literally selling a product that's via Instagram, and that's it. But a lot of the business I work with are business to business, selling electrical services for mining projects, and we've got a different marketing mix for those guys than we would do for a different business. But it's really understanding A, where the business is at, B, where the budget is, if there's a budget, and C, finding the right channels for promotion that are going to give results. So there's always a bit of work around the promotion side of things. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of options and opportunities for how to promote or communicate your business to your customers and prospective customers. So as you can see, we've talked for almost an hour or so in that first section. So the reason why that first part of the where are we now and the situational analysis is so important, because it really drives the thorough analysis of where you are, what's the reality, what's your competitors doing, what have you been doing in the past, and how that's achieving or not achieving your results. And why I do this once a year with most of my clients is because we basically need to make sure that what we're doing is working. And if there's sudden change in the industry, on the environment, or we've got a massive global pandemic, we can kind of stop and kind of go, right, what do we need to change or tweak moving forward? But it's super important to really have a good, thorough understanding. And like I said, I often do this part of the marketing strategy planning at the same time that business owners and management teams are doing their business planning for the next year. So it's often hand in hand with that process. So after we've kind of done that thorough analysis, what I then go into is, okay, then we kind of know where we're at, what's happening, what our audits have reflected, where do we want to be? So your objectives and goals. So I think it's really important to set some objectives and goals with whatever that you're doing, because you want to make sure that if you're investing money in spend, so advertising or brand basics like new websites, things like that, are they actually giving you the results that you want? So marketing goals are your top level board goals to show how the business can benefit from your promotional channels. So these are aims used to shape your strategy. They describe how your marketing efforts will contribute to the business in area of growing sales, communicating with the audience, and saving money. Your objectives should be SMART objectives. So they give clear direction and commercial targets that you basically use to track against your performance and what you've set out to do with your top level goals. And your marketing KPIs, your key performance indicators that you use to keep you on track. So these are specific metrics that are used. So things like your Google ads, your website hits, leads coming in via calls, emails, website, all that kind of stuff. So really the tactical side of things. All right, to see, okay, I've spent $1,000 on ads in February and I got 20 leads, I converted 10, I had 100 visits to the website. That's the kind of stuff that you want to be regularly looking at. And with the clients that I work with, we do these marketing KPIs almost at a monthly basis, because a lot of the stuff that we do could be digital ads, and you can switch those on and off or tweak and change really quickly. So if you're finding that all of a sudden you've got an ad that's giving you 0 results, turn it off, let's tweak it. Or if you've, on the other end, if you've got an ad that's working really well, and you think if you put a bit more money behind it, you're going to get even better, you can tweak that as well. So having this idea that marketing and the analysis and reporting is kind of always top of mind is what I recommend for businesses. So mapping your goals and objectives to your business goals. So a simple way to ensure your marketing goals and objectives line up with your business goals is to use a bit of a simple matrix. And this is a bit of a guide, and I think there might have been a question, but what I'll do is I'll send with that kind of cheat sheet that I mentioned at the beginning, but I will send a guide as to how to structure these marketing strategies as part of a package that I send out after today's workshop. So what it will include is a bit of how I do it. So I have a tactical marketing calendar that I use for my clients, and in the top part of that, it's in an Excel sheet, is where we've got like the business goals, marketing goals, etc. on the top. So I'll be sharing those with you after the workshop. But things like, so your business goals is this is an example, introduce a new range of services. Your marketing goals is to drive brand awareness, and then the marketing objectives would be to increase brand awareness of new product offering by 20% by 30th of June. This is a bit of an example that you should be working with in terms of how to structure your strategies and goals and tactics. And some of the marketing KPIs to be used. And this again is really dependent on what it is you're doing, but finding the right measures and KPIs that reflect what you're doing, and making sure that you've got a check and balance to make sure that your results are coming through as you want. So this is just a bit of an example, and again I'll share this with you guys so you can see the difference between some of the marketing KPIs, paid ads, so things like Google and Facebook ads, owned media, so things like your website, earned and shared, so things where your information or your page gets shared and liked and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a snapshot of some of the KPIs that you can use. So when we've determined exactly where we want to be, and I should just mention again, the marketing goals that you set should be in direct line with your business objectives. So I said, if you have a goal to increase your sales for next year by 10%, your marketing goal should be reflective of that. And then your tactical plan should be all the steps it takes to get to that point. So how do we get there? So this is the strategy part. So once you've done that kind of thorough analysis and situation analysis, your strategies can be, I guess, looked upon as a bit of a game plan. And this is heavily dependent on what your personal business and analysis and business goals are. So some of the things that when you've uncovered that, is having a look at, okay, what is it that I really need to strategize and make this priority? So for some businesses, it could be increased brand awareness. So you might be new to the market and you've got a lot of competitors out there that have been established. So you have a challenge with your brand. So that might be one of the strategies that you put in place. Or you might be an existing business that people know, but you're launching a new product or a service. Again, that's a different type of strategy. Customer acquisition versus customer retention. That's another sort of strategy, whether you work with business to business or your business to consumer, or a combination of both. Community engagement, if your business is reliant upon engaging with community, that could be a different one. Increasing market share could be a strategy. Sales generally sits in within every strategy that I do. But what you'll find is you should have a good picture of what it is, the direction that you need to take your business, dependent on your analysis, your business planning, and what your business goals are. So this is, like I said, really heavily dependent on each individual business, because there's so many businesses out there that have completely different product offerings and service offerings, customer types. Are really dependent on where you are at now and where you want to go. So this is something to consider basically when you're doing the overall strategy planning, and which ones you need to focus on. So it might be that you're on 1 year, 1 or 2 years, for example, you're focusing on building your brand awareness. Other times it could be that you're then bringing in other strategies like increasing market share, or customer acquisition or retention goals. It really depends on where your business is at and where you want it to get to. Okay, and what do we do? So when you know where you are and you know where you want to go and how you'll get there, the crucial question is, what do you need to do to achieve your goals? And this is around the implementation of a tactical marketing plan. So the marketing plan itself goes into the logistical details of executing your strategy. So this includes your budgets, your timescales, who's managing what within your business, which kind of strategy that aligns to cost control, all that kind of stuff. And it's, what I said I use generally is, for my clients, it's an Excel structure file, which is basically divided into quarters. All the tactical marketing elements that have been decided and approved sit on one side. And then throughout the calendar, it basically says when we're doing what. And on top of that chart is what the monthly sales and key KPIs are. So it gives the businesses a bit of a snapshot. They know what's going to happen, how it's tracking from a perspective of those marketing KPIs. And that's what I found has been really useful in helping plan out the tactical side and evaluating to make sure it's working and it's staying on budget, etc. So it certainly is more of a live document. So once you kind of do your strategy, it kind of sits there. It's a piece of it, a lot of analysis and thought and structure. But your marketing plan is something you would want to be regularly whipping out to make sure it's going well. So like I said, I do a year plan for my clients, but we do 3 months at a time. We do blocks of reviews, so we can make sure, so we can have a look at, how's the budget tracking? Is it on point? Is it under? Is it over? Are the sales over, above? Are they less? So it's a dynamic document that should be looked at quite regularly. Like I said, for my clients, I literally will look at it every single week, because I'm doing a lot of the marketing planning and implementation for them. So this is a bit of a snapshot of how this could look, but I will share with you guys the one that I generally use. So I'll put it in I'll basically do a Dropbox folder and include the templates and structures that I use on a day-to-day basis, basically. And then, pretty importantly, once we've gone through this strategy and planning for your marketing, is going, hey, did we get there? So when you're carrying out your activities according to the plan that you've set, you need to evaluate. If you're not evaluating what you're doing, then what's the point? So what you need to do is to make sure you go back to your objectives and goals from your strategy. Are you meeting, exceeding, not meeting what you set out? And things that you can take a look at are your return on investment, your sales figures, your market reach expansion, things like even internal staff feedback can be quite important. What I found working in bigger organizations is sometimes you would do marketing campaigns, that we kind of plan out and implement, but the customer facing people generally have a lot of good insight. Could it be anecdotal that you won't see necessarily through figures like a website visit or ad click or a lead? So also looking at what your internal staff think about what you've been doing with your marketing activities, your actions of competitors. So what you might find is if you've done a really strong marketing strategy and you've put in regular campaigns, you might all of a sudden notice that all of a sudden you're seeing a lot more of your competitor. So that could be a reactionary strategy on their part, because they've noticed that you're doing something specific on your part. So something like that can be quite interesting. And obviously reviewing the marketing KPIs. So doing this regularly is really important. So it's basically to be ready to adapt your marketing strategy and your marketing plan as and when necessary. And if you remain flexible and on top of it, you can really make sure that the time you are spending on this really feeds back directly to your results. Okay, so I think, yes, that kind of covers the very broad strategy. Obviously, there's quite a lot of information, so I'm sure there's probably a few questions out there. So Lauren, I don't know if you've got any that have come through.
Yeah, there's a couple that have come through, but whilst I'm going to start going through them, guys, if you've got any questions at all, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
No,
and Agatha's full of knowledge, so please use the opportunity. Click the Q&A button at the bottom and submit your question, and we'll get them answered before we finished up. The first one we've got: I struggle to decide what I should be spending on my marketing. Any tips?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where it can be tricky, and this question I get asked all the time. So firstly, it's having a look at what you're comfortable with in your business to be spending. Secondly, it's analysing what you've spent before and what you've got out of it. It's because sometimes people think they need to spend a lot of money to get results, and I don't necessarily think that's always the case. And there's certainly no one size fits all. I think, sometimes I've worked in businesses of all types, where we've worked in that marketing is 20% of your total turnover for the year, for example, or 10%. It's really sitting down and kind of going, what is it that you are comfortable spending on your business? No, small to medium businesses, this is can be a pain point. So it's analysing, okay, basically doing your analysis of where you're at. So what are your sales figures, your turnover, profit, whatever it is that you use to manage your KPIs? What have you spent previously? Has that given you the results? That's probably the first step. So if you spent $10,000 in a year, but A, you either don't think you got anything out of it, B, didn't get quite what you wanted. So then it's having a look at going, right, so that $10,000 that I had put aside, one, did I do effective advertising? B, did I just throw some ads out in the world hoping that they'll hook someone in? And that's often, to be honest, that's a lot of the businesses I work with, that's what they do. There's no one size fits all. It's really understanding where your business is at, what financial position your business is in, and then being strategic around, all right, so what it is that we want to acquire. So I've got a business at the moment who we're actually working through this budgeting process together, and it's, he's in the manufacturing world, so his client value and his sales value is quite high. So for him, he's like, all right, so I know if I need to spend, buy a new website, spend some time doing proper strategy work, and I get one new client, that pays itself off. So it really depends on where you are with the business. And like I said, I've worked with some small businesses that literally have very little room to move for marketing budget. So it's really sitting down and going, right, what are you comfortable with? And then sitting down and going, right, do I need to spend all of it? Not necessarily. It's hard for me to answer, because it's very dependent on your business situation. But but you can be smart about it. And I certainly don't think you have to, you don't have to spend big to get results if you're smart about really understanding your business, really understanding your product, really understanding who your customers are and how they are communicated to. That's the critical stuff. And when I say to people who are starting out, and I've got a client that never spent any money really on external advertising, except for, I think he once got a call from a mining magazine, and he put a full page ad in the magazine just completely randomly. And he's like, yeah, I never got anything from it. And I was like, well, you're not going to, because it was completely random. And so what we're doing with him is going through a process. He's giving me a number that he's comfortable with spending. So we've used that as a 12-month bit of a plan. And he said, if we're analysing every 3 months and it seems that it's working, getting results, he will be comfortable to build on that budget. So often businesses that I work with, particularly smaller ones, have a smaller budget to start with, and it's about a build situation. So if you're kind of doing, getting good results and you're getting those sales coming through, then you have a percentage that you can put back into increasing your marketing spend, if that's what the requirement is. So it's very specific to each business depending on what your financial position is.
So I guess work out what you can afford, and then the key is continuing to monitor.
Exactly.
That we had a similar one come through from Andrew at Ready Apps. Quite similar. I can see that big organizations can afford to throw money at marketing. How would you suggest a small business approach this? So I guess you've kind of just covered that. Yeah. And if people were looking to sit down a bit of a brainstorm session, is that one of the services that you do? Like, just to sit down and
just kind of, absolutely.
We've got a comment from Claire, Pen and Paper Girl. Thank you for all this fabulous info. Great presentation. Lisa Island from Project Maintenance Perth. Do you value surveys to find out the information from your clients about what they want from your business?
Absolutely.
And what's the best way to extract the information from them?
So if you've got existing customers, what I've done in the past, when I've been within the business and as well as a consultant, is setting up a regular, it could be yearly, research for current customers, and you send them out as you guys will find you get one from me this afternoon where I basically find a touch point and say, look, I'm always wanting to better myself or my business, would appreciate you to complete this quick survey. Usually through something like SurveyMonkey or something along those lines is what I generally have used for myself and for clients. Don't make it too overwhelming because people will go, too many questions, I don't want to do it. So be succinct, be specific. And sometimes the other thing could be if you've got a type of business where it's not like regular, they don't buy from me once a month, it could be a service-based business. Send them a customer satisfaction survey when you finish the job, for example. So with you guys, Perth Property Maintenance, if you've done a job for someone, maybe include it in your your sales flow, that once you finish with a customer, you send an email or something along the lines and go, thanks so much for your for using Perth Property. We would love to hear more about your customer experience and a little bit more about yourself. So you can kind of incorporate that into your sales funnel process to basically pull out key insights when it's applicable, because some businesses are like that, where it's more when a need becomes apparent rather than consistently using the same service provider all the time.
And in terms of responses, do you think you need to offer some kind of incentive to make them do it, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's so hard because I don't like to offer incentives because then you don't get the right people. Some, what I mean? People love a freebie, but sometimes it's really hard to get what's it called? People to fill it out. Like I said, I prefer to not use them because it's more people that have something to say. But sometimes it's worth testing. If you're finding you're getting no customer feedback, do a quarterly draw of recipients, and once a quarter, anyone that's filled out your survey can win a bowl of wine or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just think it's part of that thing is when you get offered a freebie, you're sometimes getting the wrong type of responses.
Yeah, no, I get that. Well, I hope that answers the question, Lisa. If it doesn't, or if there's any others, feel free to post another. Sarah from Art and Soul, as a sole trader, what would be the priority you would spend time on? So she provides face-to-face service, so she's very time poor, seeing clients quite a lot.
So what was the business again? It was Art and
Soul. So it's well-being, and she's face-to-face with clients.
Okay, and the question was, what would be the
priority to spend time on?
So I guess the question is, one, if you're out with clients all the time, does that mean you're getting, this is why all the questions come into play, but if you're constantly out with clients, does it mean that you've got a steady flow of work or customers coming in? So that means potentially that your front level promotion is okay. Because it's really hard. It might be something, I'm happy to have a quick one-on-ones with people as well, just because it's so dependent on a lot of other things. But, like, for example, I'll just give you an example of what I'm doing especially at this time, because the time has probably impacted every single business. So I have clients that have put work on hold dependent on what the outcome is because of the nature of their work in their industry that I work in. But I've had other clients that I've got a sole trader. She works in a sort of similar, she's a health and wellness coach. So what we're actually using this time to do is she wants to launch an online program, and we're getting that set up, ready to go. Because, I think it's going to be good for her going forward. So we're basically prioritizing what her future marketing activity will be and getting it 100% right. Personally, what I'm doing is I've got a bit of client work. I've had a bit of client load off. So I'm literally going through and reworking my entire website. I set up my business for 12 months ago, and got super busy, and I haven't been doing what I would tell my clients to do. So I'm literally doing the basics for myself. So I'm in the process of completely redoing my whole website. I've been looking at doing an online training course, which is one of the questions you guys will get in my survey later on, and just having a look at the things that I can control. So when things work and start getting back to normal, I'm kind of ready to go. And a lot of my other clients have retained marketing work are literally putting in place, making sure the basics are correct. Is your LinkedIn profile updated properly? Is your Facebook, Instagram linked properly, updated properly? Take the time to use things like, if you don't know how to use Canva or things like that help with your social media, take the time to do online courses. There's so much stuff that's going on at the moment, but it really depends on where your business is at, really. So it's like I said, it's hard for me to,
hopefully that gives you something to work from, Sarah. But feel free to reach out to Agatha and have a little bit of a chat, and you can explain a bit more about what you do. She'll be able to give a little bit more advice. James is asking about where you think marketing trends might be going, social media or somewhere else.
I think we've got social media is certainly not going to go away. I'm of the opinion, I always have been, is that it's not the be all and end all of everything. So in terms of what my client workload looks like, for the most part, it's not social media stuff. It's the businesses that I work with. Yeah, we do the basics that we need to do, but it's really solidifying your product, your service. Number one, digital's always going to be there. We can't get away with it. People search on Google. The figures are crazy. Every second what's being searched on Google. So I think ensuring that your digital presence is solid is supremely important always, no matter what you're doing. You need to make sure that you've got your good website, you've got the social media basics up and running, your Google business listing is up. I don't know, sure if all of you guys have basically a live Google business listing. I'm working with someone at the moment who work in the solar field, and I literally this morning when I had a look, they don't even own their own Google business listing. So there's things like that. Just make sure that's the case. But then what I think is really important is your conversion and your customer, your funnel. That's really important to me. Like, it's one thing to present your basics and have everything in, but is everything else in line? So when a customer contacts you, are you responding quickly enough? Are you meeting their expectations as a customer? We live in a very instant gratification society. If people want answers like this, they want to make sure that if they message you on Facebook, you respond. So do you have an auto messenger response saying it takes 24 hours for me to respond, so that they're setting their expectations? So it's one thing. So marketing is not just getting people to there. It's the whole flow of a customer journey for your product or service. So once they, are you responding to quotes? So one client of mine, they realized that they had quote requests that were outstanding by 2 months.
Yeah, I think we've all contacted a business and never heard back.
Yeah, so this thing is going, are your internal marketing automation processes to deliver your goods and service to your customer, are they up to scratch? Because you can spend money to get ads to your business, and if you're not up to scratch on the customer fulfillment side, you're wasting money. Yeah. So obviously it's an approach, and it's holistic, and that's why I say marketing is never one or the other. It's considering, your marketing is every touch point a customer or prospective customer has with your business.
Yeah.
So, making sure your basics are in place, making sure your marketing process internally to respond to customers, and then your fulfillment side is up to scratch.
Yeah,
because
hopefully that answers your question, James.
Yes.
Still staying on the lines of social media, but Chetna, thank you for your question, who's asking for a bit of advice on Facebook marketing.
Mm-hmm. In anything specific, or?
She's not said.
Okay, again, like
she's just added, she struggles to get clients to leave Facebook reviews after they've completed a job. Is there any way that she can overcome
it's really
that?
tough. It's something I literally talk about almost every week, because you can't force people to do it. You know, like, unfortunately, people will leave a negative review pretty quickly if they've had a bad experience. But I mean, you can't bulldoze people to leave a review. That's something.
But I guess maybe subtle reminders, having the
yeah,
link on.
and that's it. That's all you can do is, and
Yeah.
that's why I say to people sometimes, when you're doing that sales flow on completion or product dispatch, whatever it could be, ensuring that you've got an opportunity for people to leave your reviews at those touch points. So that, if you've got a website and they buy a product on your website, do you have a direct link for them to leave a Google review? If you've got an email address, an email autoresponder, or even an email that you send, thanks for using my maintenance services, your feedback on my Facebook page, just having a touch point wherever you talk to your customers to give them the opportunity to review. That's all you can do without hounding them.
So I guess, Chetna, like your email signatures, your invoices, your thank you response when they've paid the invoice, even on some of the reports that you send through to your clients when the job's completed, would be subtle ways that you can keep putting the link on there to encourage. But Google reviews is probably, in my opinion, a bit more important than Facebook reviews. So make sure you've got your Google My Business listing live so that people can leave Google reviews. So there's a little tip for you there.
And just so you know, because of COVID, Google business reviews aren't being processed, so there's a big lag on that. So in case that's something, they're not putting them through at the moment.
Someone's asked about advertising on community radio. Is it a good option for local business? Depends on the business, but
depends on the business, depends on the product. It can be quite a cost-effective way to get your message out there, and if the audience is listening to that station and your product or service applies to them, certainly I think radio can be really strong.
We've got, for anyone that doesn't know, 89.7 FM is the community radio for this area. They're based out of ECU at Joondalup. And from a cost perspective, obviously they're not as big as like your Novas or your 92.9 or whatever the others are, but their rates are pretty good for local advertising as well, and that we advertise on there as an association, and we have had business from it and inquiries from it. So it's just another channel for you to look at. If it fits with your demographic, then maybe look into it.
Absolutely.
2 more questions before we close off, so if anyone's got any others, please post them through. Andrew from Ready Apps again, asking for a bit of honest advice. Can a small business do everything with regards to marketing on their own? Do they need a marketing professional? I think the answer from a marketing professional, Andrew, might be yes. Maybe that's something that you guys can connect with. He's asking about cost of hiring someone like yourself to do a strategy and a plan. So
absolutely, we can definitely touch base, Andrew. I guess that's, we talk about why we're in business. I found a gap of basically what I found was a gap for business owners, because they don't have the time to do everything. And the business owners that I've worked with in the last 12 months, it's literally, they run every part of their business, and then you add marketing on top. Of course, you can do basics, but do you want to be spending the time to be doing it? And that's why I started my business, because I found a gap in the market where I thought I can support businesses by plugging in at what point that business requires a marketing person. And obviously, I've been doing this for 14 years, so I can come in and do quite a lot in the sense of not having to hire someone in and all that kind of stuff. So that's, I guess, my unique selling proposition, is I can plug into a business where it needs to be. You could do it, but again, it comes down to your time, your money time. That's time spent that you could be doing following up leads. It's kind of finding a balancing act. Do you have a bookkeeper that does your accounting? There's all these kinds of things that, you could probably do it, but do you want to be doing it, or do you want to be spending time doing other stuff within your business?
He's just added there, he's only asking because they've spent a lot in the past with no return at all. But I guess the WBA's point of view is that small businesses, especially, you're in business because you're good at what you do. So Andrew, you guys, you're fab at building the apps and providing that service to businesses. You're a plumber, you're great at fixing the taps and installing the pipes, but you can't do everything. So any small business at some point, if you're looking to grow, has got to look at outsourcing maybe the services that you don't enjoy or take up your time or you're not too confident in, and give it to someone that knows what they're doing. So Agatha, she said before, will be contacting everyone after the session, so you'll have the contact details to pick that one up, Andrew. And the last question, unless anyone sends any others through, how far in advance do you recommend looking at your marketing content? So as an example, when should we be looking at next calendar year or next financial year?
The way I generally do it is in my yearly marketing planning, is we kind of determine key periods of time throughout the calendar year with very top level things. So if you, for example, you want to do a big acquisition type of campaign in a certain month, you kind of have that flagged on the top level. But in terms of actual content, I generally look 2 to 3 months before, just to be planned and organised and be able to be reactive. So something changes, okay, let's have a look at what we've planned. Can we change it? Do we need to change it? I generally, with my clients' content, I send out 1 month prior. So I'll work on it, and then 1 month prior to loading up, they check it over and make sure they're happy with it. So that's generally how I would work. But, if you're on your marketing plan, you should have a good idea of what's going on. If you're doing those regular checkpoints, the tactical side, 1 to 2 months out generally, I think is sufficient.
Cool. Thank you, Agatha. Well, that's the last question.
Okay.
I do just want to encourage everyone to provide Agatha with the feedback. This is the first webinar, she said at the beginning, that she's done before. And she is considering at the moment maybe offering some online information sessions like this on an ongoing basis. So please just take the time to give her that feedback. On a lighter note, before we finish, it was on the radio this morning that IKEA have shared their meatballs recipe. Which I thought was actually a very clever marketing tool for, there's lots of people that are at home doing DIY, renovating rooms. Thoughts?
Yeah, they're trying to engage, I think and that's their iconic thing, as long as we don't talk about the horse meat scandal from a few years ago. So, I think it's good. It's topical. It's kind of keeping them front of mind of people. It's not going to give them sales. It's more of that kind of being part of the community and keeping their brand's awareness out there. So, it's clever, using a iconic part of their history.
Well, cool. Thank you for your time and
thank you so much, everyone.
The presentation together. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Another session on Thursday, preparing your business for what's coming, and then we're launching our drop-in session for an hour and a half on Friday lunchtime, where some of the members of the Wanneroo Business Association Marketing Committee will be joining us just for a bit of an open chat and to give some advice or brainstorm through some of your businesses. Next week, we've got another webinar with Sarah and Sarah, who were online from Art and Soul. They're doing a session on keeping motivated when doing it tough. So if some of you have got a list as long as your arm of things you'd like to do, but you're not really getting through them, that's probably a session for you to pick up some ways of getting things done. And then the next couple of weeks as well, we've got lead generation in a downturn. So we've got some tips being shared about your sales and your leads generation. And we've also got building and maintaining customer relationships with everything that's going on. So some of you might have shut your doors, might not have the contact that you had before with your customers, but how do you keep that communication going with everything that's going on? So thanks for joining us, and we'll have the recording in the Facebook group for you all to have a look at. We'll see you hopefully at the next one. Thanks, Agatha.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.